So let's look at ethos, logos, and pathos in writing. I'm going to use excerpts from Martin Luther King Jr.'s letter from Birmingham jail. This is a letter he had written while in jail in Birmingham, Alabama. I consider it maybe the best essay ever written, and we're going to look at how he uses each of these appeals. Now, I've started with this first paragraph that talks about why he's writing. And it says, while confined here in the Birmingham City Jail, I came across your recent statements for calling our present activities unwise and untimely. This is written by clergymen of his day, and he also was a clergyman. So he's writing to his peers. He says, seldom, if ever, do I pause to answer criticism of my work and ideas. If I sought to answer all these criticisms that come or that cross my desk, my secretaries would be engaged in little else in the course of the day, and I would have no time for constructive work. And here's the important part. But since I feel that you are men of genuine goodwill and your criticisms are sincerely set forth, I would like to answer your statement in what I hope will be patient and reasonable terms. So he's responding to these clergymen who are asking, why don't you wait? Why do you need to act now? So again, we're going to look at ethos, logos, and pathos and how they're being used. Let's start with logos. Let's start with logic. So he's going to bring up a premise, and if you believe in this premise, then it's going to add to another premise, and then we can apply reason to make a projection. He says a just law is a man-made code that squares with the moral law or the law of God. So we are getting this blending of ethos and logos here, but we really want to look at the logical argument he's making. So he's saying a just law squares with moral law or God's law. And I think that these clergymen would agree with that. An unjust law is a code that is out of harmony with the moral law. So anything that opposes God's law would be unjust. And again, I believe they would agree with that. To put it in the terms of St. Thomas Aquinas, an unjust law is a human law that is not rooted in eternal and natural law. Okay, so he's setting up two premises here of what is a just law and an unjust law. Any law that uplifts human personality is just. Any law that degrades human personality is unjust. Okay, so if we accept this as true, now he's going to apply reason to the situation. All segregation statutes are unjust because segregation distorts the soul and damages the personality. It gives the segregator a false sense of superiority and the segregated a false sense of inferiority. So he's saying that the segregation laws, because they don't fit in with God's law, are then unjust and should be removed. So we see the logic that he's applying here. You lead your reader into saying, if this is true and this is true, then we come to this reasonable conclusion. Okay, let's move to ethos then. So I left up that first paragraph, same situation. He's responding to these clergymen as to why he's doing what he's doing. He says, of course, there's nothing new about this kind of civil disobedience. So he's going to rely on credibility and authority from people in the past. Now, because they're clergymen, we think, who are their authorities? And he's going to use scripture. He's going to use people from the Bible in order to show that what he's doing is what's been done for years by people that these clergymen would admire and think of as saints. It was seen sublimely in the refusal of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to obey the laws of Nebuchadnezzar because a higher moral law was involved. So what happened here is these three people, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, were told that they weren't allowed to pray. There would be serious consequences, and they said, we're going to do it anyway. This is a story that the clergymen would uphold as saints, uphold as people being righteous. And so King is really putting him in a position where he's saying, if you agree with what they did, you should agree with what I'm doing. It was practiced superbly by the early Christians who were willing to face hungry lions and the excruciating pain of chopping blocks before submitting to certain unjust laws of the Roman Empire. So people who sacrificed themselves for their religion, who were martyrs, he says you should really uphold these people as great people. To a degree, academic freedom is a reality today because Socrates practiced civil disobedience. So what he's really talking about is he's breaking laws, and these are those segregation laws that he was talking about earlier. He's purposely breaking them. Socrates did the same thing. Socrates was educating students. He actually educated Plato, who then educated Aristotle. Socrates was not holding back in giving this liberal education. And for that, he was actually put to death. They made him drink hemlock and executed him for speaking truths to people. Okay, so he's saying if you regard any of these as martyrs or as righteous, brave men who are putting down injustice and breaking laws purposely because they're unjust laws, then if you respect their authority, you should respect what I'm doing here. So you can see how he's using ethos to his advantage. And then we have pathos. So he can make all these arguments, but he really wants to show them what it's like. We think of these clergymen, they are white. They aren't dealing with a lot of the issues that Martin Luther King is dealing with. And so we read this last paragraph to feel the emotion of it. I guess it is easy for those who have never felt the stinging darts of segregation to say, wait. So he's talking specifically to these clergymen. But when you have seen vicious mobs lynch your mothers and fathers at will and drown your sisters and brothers at whim, when you have seen hate-filled policemen curse, kick, brutalize, and even kill your Black brothers and sisters with impunity, when you see the vast majority of your 20 million Negro brothers smothering in an airtight cage of poverty in the midst of an affluent society, when you suddenly find your tongue twisted and your speech stammering as you seek to explain to your 6-year-old daughter why she cannot go to the public amusement park that has just been advertised on television, and see tears welling up in her little eyes when she is told that Funtown is closed to color children, and see the depressing clouds of inferiority begin to form in her little mental sky, and see her begin to distort her little personality by unconsciously developing a bitterness towards white people. So what he's doing here is he's showing them the problem. He's asking them to feel what it's like in this situation. Again, one of the powers of pathos is that challenges your reader to be unfeeling. Do you not care that his brothers and sisters are being killed? Do you not care that people are being lynched? Do you not care that I have to explain to my daughter that she can't go to this amusement park or this fair because of the color of her skin, and see how racism starts to form in her mind? And so pathos really has a strong effect in showing what we've talked about before through the logos and the ethos. Now it shows that to the reader so they can feel it. So again, all three together work really well. I highly recommend everybody read Letter from Birmingham Jail. It's about 20 pages long, so it's not too bad. But again, it is a great piece of writing. So think about in your own letters, your persuasion to your readers. Are you going to use ethos, logos, pathos, or a combination of all three? Now, this doesn't mean that each paragraph has to be solely ethos or solely pathos. You can combine them in ways that King has done here. You just want to make sure that you're using these appeals to their benefit.